Shalom, my friends. Welcome to yet one more sitting in the Word. It's 9:45 p.m. Friday night, and that's a little stand I made. I make things out of hanger wire. Covered it with leather just so I could put my watch there, and when I'm in the house, place for it to stand. Things are moving along with the music project with Mark Palladino. Amazing. We are pretty much done with narrowing down which songs we have, cleaning them up as much as we can for mastering. Next, they're going to go into a mastering process where we had like 46 songs to begin with, and now we are down to 19 or 20 for various reasons, but we're down to 19 or 20. Those are going to go to a mastering lab, one of the best in the world, and they're going to take all those 20 songs, and so that they'll all be at the same volume, and also they'll tweak them up sonically to give them a lot more presence and excitement, like they would have been, let's say, originally, or even in a live performance. So that'll be happening maybe next month. In the meantime, I'll be sharing a couple of songs with you each week and giving you free MP3 downloads. Today, there's 2 more songs beneath today's video for you to download. One of them is titled LA Streets, and it's a song I wrote about myself and David Wood, the Wood Post duo. Wrote it in 1972, or I copyrighted it in 72. Looks like I wrote it in 71. Oops. Something like that. And speaking of Wood Post, last week you downloaded the song that had the F sharp twist to it, right where it said Blackjack Oak, and I had a note on the bottom of that a Blackjack Oak was referring to, or rather the blackjack is referring to an oak tree. And I looked that up. The blackjack oak is of the red oak tree family, grows on the East Coast as well as central US. But here's the key, and I think why I mentioned it in the song. I don't remember meeting a blackjack oak personally. They grow here in Jersey. It must have been something that sparked it. But the thing about the blackjack oak is that they grow where few other woody plants can survive at all. And some say that it's a tough tree, but it's ugly. And ironically, it reminds me of Yeshua. There was nothing beautiful about him for people to admire, and he was able to survive things that no one else could. But something to consider when you listen to that song. But now, LA Streets, kicking down an LA street, just waiting to go on. Sometimes the lights were bleeding bright, but we made it when we tried. Yeah, we knew we'd make it if we tried. We were crying to the rain. Our voices sang in crazy dreamlands where we flew, lost, free, are just touching the times. It's all about the experience of performing in a duo with David Wood. I don't know, I guess it was a year or two partnership, and we were friends for quite a long time. But the other song is titled Couple of Kids, and this is about another friend who was a friend for a much longer time in my life. If you've downloaded a copy of my book, or if you have a hard copy of my book, Road to Paradise, I've been getting a lot of phone calls lately. Last week, sitting in the Word, Mark called. Last night, in the live stream, the phone rang because Brad, we had to get him hooked up. I don't know who's calling now, but they're not leaving a message, so it's not important. Anyway, if you're familiar with my book, Road to Paradise, I had a childhood friend named Robert. It was Robert Spicuzzo. Met Robert when I was 7 years old. And I mean, we were friends. We were joined at the hip every day until, maybe when I was 15, I started not going outside as much. Started playing the guitar actually when I was 14, and I had a crowd of friends in that Italian neighborhood I grew up in. Robert and I were just every single day we were together. It's a wonderful, indescribable friendship that has meant a lot to me my whole life long. But when I started playing guitar and writing songs, I just stopped hanging out. I got into more solitude and you know, doing this stuff, writing songs and whatnot. But Robert, whenever I was in Jersey, throughout the years, we would get together. Later he got married and he had a couple of kids, and I was, you know, good friends with him, his wife, and not his children so much. Didn't really get to know them. I was always around kind of briefly. But we were fast friends until he passed away just a couple of 3 years ago. But A Couple of Kids is all about Robert and myself growing up in the neighborhood. Oh, we used to be a couple of kids living on the same streets when the hours were so meaningless, like clouds hanging over our dreams. You know what I mean? I remember the sea when all of its water flowed inside of me. There's some beautiful lines. One here talking about the apple trees. Just walking through the yards with an apple in the palm of our hands. You know what I mean? Do you remember the trees? Well, I want you to know they're still growing up inside of me. These lines are still true today, my friends. Anyway, those are the two songs I have for you. A Couple of Kids about me and Robert. And LA Streets about me and David Wood, the Wood Post duo. And you know, I'll tell you, I mean, those are two songs about my two closest friends, except for one. There's one friend who's been a truer friend, a much more intimate friend than anyone in my life. And, you know, it's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm talking about Mark Palladino, where we knew each other pre-teens, but we didn't really connect yet. Like, if I was 8, he was 11, too much of a gap. We might have seen each other at some family barbecues and things like that, but it wasn't until I was 15 and he was 18 that we started our friendship, and that goes to today. David Wood, we were friends from, I guess, maybe when I was 14 into my 30s. So that would be the shortest friendship. And we parted ways in a negative way because he went through a divorce, and I didn't support what he was doing, so he got angry with me. Keep it simple like that. Robert, we were friends from the age of 7 until 14 in the most intense, I mean every day. So, you know, that was 7, that's very significant because of that young age, and every day. I mean, he was over my house every day. But then after that, it became, you know, sporadic because I was out in LA a lot, or in Nashville, or, you know, performing in New York City, and, you know, we would see each other just as visits. But our friendship went for more than half a century until he passed away. Never, ever did we have a disagreement of any kind. By the way, the door is open. I'm telling you, man, it was raining all day, and then there would be heavy snowfall, and then we'd go back to rain, and then back to snow, and the wind, really demonic winds blowing. I brought these, I don't know if you can see the 2 chairs, they're usually out on my porch. I had to bring them in because I would have lost them. They would have been in another state by now. Yeah, it's kind of warm. I have the door open so you can hear the wind chimes out there. Now, Mark Palladino, there's a friendship that went from the age of, my age, let's say 15, until I was maybe 25. There's 10 years, and that was very much intimate, and in some deeper ways, because it had to do with my songwriting and the expression of biographical writings, you know. And anyway, you know, Mark supporting me as an artist, him being manager / producer, and we parted ways when I was around 25 because I got married. That kind of took me, I mean, I came back to Jersey, got married, came back to Jersey after a year out in LA with my wife, and I was performing in New York and in New Jersey, and I still had quite a following, maybe for a couple of years. And then you know, she started steering me away from it. She was always trying to put a suit on me, and was successful at it a couple of times. But I kind of got away from the music, let's say from around maybe when I was 25-ish until, let's say, when I was 30. Then you know, I got divorced, and I came back to Jersey, regrouped. That's when I wound up going to Nashville, and the Nashville period started. And Mark and I got back in touch during those times, you know, as friends, and also in terms of career, periodically. But you know, now there's this, and this is pulling us back together like it was in the very beginning. We're on the phone practically every day, and some days, you know, 3, 4, 5 times. There's a lot going on. So, you know, I think it's a pretty significant point that I've had a couple of friends, at least, that span 50 years where well, one's passed away, so I can't say it, but before he passed away, we were as close as we were when we were children. And now there's Mark Palladino. We are just as close now as we were in our teens. And in both with Robert as well as with Mark, never, had a falling away of any kind. I think there might not be too many people who can say that. So anyway, there's that. Childhood friends. 2 songs about childhood friends. And a little note about the blackjack being an oak tree. Very significant kind of oak tree. And that's it. This music project is about to expand, I think, in some interesting ways. Now, aside from that, last night we had Brad Scott on. I think you all know I love Brad Scott, and I admire him greatly. Mostly, my friends, you know, if you haven't figured it out, I admire him greatly because his study in the Word, especially through the Father's original language, spans more than 30 years full time. The man has been lecturing all over the earth for some 30 years, 20 at least, in more than 50 countries, all over the United States. And I have looked at much of his knowledge being expressed, and I have never, not once, been able to fault him on anything. And I think there's only one other person I can say that about, and that's Chuck Missler. Although I've heard of some minor points where Brad doesn't agree with Chuck, and I tend to agree with Brad. Mostly because Brad has a knowledge of the Father's language that Chuck does not have. In fact, when Chuck expounds on the original Hebrew, he's usually referring to things he learned from Brad Scott. And, you know, perhaps some friends he knows that are Jewish. But Brad threw something out last night that surprised me, my friends, as much as you, I promise you, where he said, I'm going to say this on the Alan Horvath show. And mind you, he was talking about the second coming, not about the rapture, the Netchatef. He's saying that he thinks the second coming is going to be like 2030, maybe 2032. I heard those words come out of his mouth and I was like, whoa, you know. I haven't had a lot of personal time with Brad yet, as I expect to. And, you know, I wouldn't question him on that. In the live stream, if you've been watching my live streams, you'll know why. Because I will not get into stuff like that in front of the sheep. I am here to feed Yeshua's sheep, not to give them indigestion by getting into possible disputes with someone that I'm featuring on my live stream show. I won't do that. I think it's just a very ignorant thing to do. But Brad said that, and so to me that means he thinks, well, he also said something else. He says, I don't think we're talking about 7 years in terms of the 7-year tribulation. Now, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, my friends. Don't let these things upset you. If it shakes your faith when you hear someone like Brad say something that you haven't been on the same page with, if it shakes your faith, then you don't have much faith. Hold on, stand firm. I haven't changed anything that I believe about, you know, the rapture. I still think it's before the 7-year trib. I still think a lot of things that I've heard Brad, well, not a lot, maybe 2 or 3 things I've heard Brad say that I don't agree with. But I haven't talked to him about it yet. It doesn't upset me. You can't shake my faith. It's not possible. My feet are planted firmly. So he says things and I'm like, whoa. But I always step back with Brad because I know him enough to know that I say, look, what are you talking about? And when he explains it, he's not going to be doing what a lot of people do that becomes very faulty because they take the English translations of the word and they say, oh, you know, it says this, so it means that. Without, you know, they don't have any depth of knowledge. And they're looking at the English translations, which are always ridiculous. I pointed it out enough times, I don't need to go into that. But when I talked to Brad, he not only has his reasons based on the Father's original language, not on English or anything else, but strictly on the Father's Aramaic Hebrew original language and understanding as it was in the Ancient of Days. Not only that, but he also takes it to the what he calls agrobiolinguistics, I think. In other words, he talks about the seed takes root, a plant comes up, a shoot, a blossom, a fruit. What's in the fruit? The seed, same seed. If this is an orange fruit, the seed is an orange seed. Here's an orange seed. He looks at that and he says, okay, you know, when it comes to these things we know about agriculture, we don't see this that people are interpreting in the English. We look at the Father's language, he's saying something else. And also when you look at the agricultural metaphor, you might say, it matches this, not that. So when he does something like that, I just step back. I don't feel threatened. Look, I don't care when the Net Chetef, the rapture, happens. Why would I? I mean, I want it to happen before I finish this sentence. I care that much, but I can't control Elohim. I don't want to control him. I want to understand what his word says, and if I have a faulty understanding, I'm not afraid to change it. And even if Brad is right, we're still getting out of here in less than 8 or 9 years. That's the worst case scenario, if you ask me. And 8 or 9 years is going to go by like 8 or 9 months, my friends. Time is speeding up, all that stuff. We're seeing all the prophecies burgeoning in the news. We know we are at the door. But all I want to say is, you know, if Brad said anything that got you upset, get a grip and understand that Brad's not the final word on it, and he'll tell you that himself. But I respect him and his knowledge more than anyone else I know out there, and all for very good reasons. I have never seen him twist the word to suit himself. I have never seen him say anything to tickle the ears of others so that he can, you know, be popular on their list or whatever. I've never seen him do anything but love Abba, Father, Yahweh, and his word, Yeshua. So, you know, I want to dig into this and see what he's talking about. And if I can shake up his deal, he'll be the first to admit it. But doing that, not an easy task. So, Anyway, I just want to encourage you, my friends. You know, I'm featuring Brad a lot. I continue to do that more so. I have someone else I'll be featuring soon. I'll let you know who that is a little bit later on. But I feature Brad. I really enjoy him. I think when the two of us are together in the live stream, we're like two musicians jamming on a song. I love what happens. But you know, if you think that, you know, because Brad said this, Alan changed his stance, man, you don't know nothing about me. I mean, come on. Have you not at least learned that my feet are firmly planted and I don't sway? That I don't have a weak personality? Please give me that much. No, Brad, I don't agree with what Brad said yet. But because he said it, I want to know why. I don't want to bury it and hide it and go, oh no, that doesn't fit my, you know, what I've been expecting this, you know. I want to know the Father's truth, and if I have it wrong or right. I want to know the Father's truth, not Alan's, not Brad's, not anyone else's. And, you know, if I've ever changed anything throughout the years in my beliefs, it's only been because of revelation in the Father's Word, not because of some man anywhere on the earth. So, relax, my friends. Know that I've said this before. I won't let you down. You can trust me. I only have one concern, and that is to feed you good food, the Father's Word, with His recipes, with His original food that's full of nutrition. None of this watered down garbage that doesn't feed the sheep. So, that's our walk in the Word. Download those two songs. Let me know what you think of them. These are so much fun because they take me back to a time in my youth. You know, it's really a lot of fun. So, Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week. And until then, keep your wicks trimmed and keep your lamps burning bright. Shalom, Chavarim.